Hello and welcome back to Mallory in the Library. Today we're going to share some favorite stories that are beautiful stories that talk about community and nature and wishes so we'll get started on those. The first one that we're going to read is a story that I read for the first time recently and really wanted to share with all of you called A Boy and a Jaguar, and this is based on a true story. And it's written by Alan Rabinowitz and it's illustrated by Katia Chen. It's dedicated to all those who have found their voice and who use it to speak for others in need, and for the many teachers in my life who helped me find my voice. I'm standing there in the great cat house at the Bronx Zoo. Why is this jaguar kept in a bare room, I wonder? I lean towards my favorite animal and whisper to her. What are you doing? My father asks. I try to explain, but my mouth freezes, just as I knew it would. I am a stutterer. If I try to push words out, my head and body shake uncontrollably. The teachers at school put me in a class for disturbed children. He's not disturbed, my parents say. We're sorry, the teachers answer, but whenever he tries to speak, he disrupts the class. The teachers think that I'm broken. Am I? But I can do two things without stuttering. One is sing, only I can't sing well. And the other is talk to animals. Every day I come home from class and go straight to the closet in my room. I bring out my pets, a hamster, a gerbil, a green turtle, a chameleon, and a garter snake. I close the door and talk to them without stuttering. I tell them my dreams. I tell them that I want to be able to speak like everyone else. I know that my pets listen and understand. Animals can't get the words out, just as I can't get the words out. So people ignore or misunderstand or hurt them the same way people ignore or misunderstand or hurt me. I make a promise to my pets. I promise that if I can ever find my voice, I will be their voice and I will keep them from harm. My parents try everything to help me. Doctor after doctor, medicine and hypnosis. Nothing works. But my father knows the one thing that does work. He takes me to the great cat house at the Bronx Zoo. I go straight to the cage with the lone jaguar, lean over the railing, and put my face against the bars. I whisper my promise to her, fluently. I get through school by learning tricks that stutterers learn. I learn when not to speak, when to avoid situations, and when to just not be around people. When I'm in college, my parents enroll me in an experimental program. There, I'm told that I am a stutterer and I will always be a stutterer. Always. But the teacher tells me that if I work hard, I can be a completely fluent stutterer. I think about how my mouth moves and airflow, and for the first time in years, I can speak without stuttering. I can speak, but nothing has changed on the inside, and I still feel broken. I go to the Great Smoky Mountains to study black bears. Alone in the forest with the animals, I am at home. Later, in Belize, I am the first person to study jaguars. The jungle makes me feel more alive than I have ever felt. I learn how to follow and capture jaguars for study before releasing them back into the wild. I am happy, but as fast as I catch jaguars and gather information to help them, hunters are killing them. They fear the animals and prize their bodies as trophies. I need to get more areas protected for the jaguars. I want to keep the promise I made to the pets in my closet. I have a voice now to speak for the animals. In the capital city of Belize, in the office of the Prime Minister, I am given 15 minutes to make my case. 15 minutes. I can't stutter and distract from my message. I have to convince one of the poorest countries in Central America, with no protected areas in the entire country, that it has to save the jaguars. Later that day, the Prime Minister votes to set up the world's first and only jaguar preserve. Back in the jungle, I know all the jaguars in the study area from their tracks. But one day, I come across a completely new track. The biggest male jaguar tracks I have ever seen. I follow the prints for hours. Not wanting to be caught in the jungle at night without a flashlight, I turn around and go back to camp. There, right behind me, is the jaguar. He must have been following me. You can see him right there. Oh, there he is. I know I should feel frightened, but I squat down and look into the jaguar's eyes, just as I had with the sad old female at the Bronx Zoo. But this animal isn't sad, and this animal's eyes are strength and power and sureness of purpose. We are both whole. We are both at home. I lean toward him a little, the way I had at the Bronx Zoo so many years before. Thank you, I whisper. I think that's a very beautiful story about how important it is to follow your heart and use your voice to help others. The next story we're going to read is called The Night Gardener by the Pham brothers. I want you to see what you notice will happen through this book. And both these brothers have dedicated this book to their mom and dad. William looked out his window to find a commotion on the street. He quickly dressed, ran downstairs, and opened the door to discover the wise owl had appeared overnight, as if by magic. William spent the whole day staring at it in wonder. And he continued to stare at it until it became too dark to see. That night, he went to sleep with a sense of excitement. The following morning, William was not disappointed. Wow. Each day, William discovered a new topiary. Next was a friendly rabbit, followed by a pretty parakeet. And then a playful elephant. Something was happening on Grimlock Lane. Something good. The next day, William dashed out of his home and followed the crowds, only to find The most magnificent masterpiece yet. It even looks like he made maybe some fire or smoke coming out of the dragon's nose. Very cool. Festivities continued long after the sun had set. As William was about to head home, he spotted someone unfamiliar. Could it be? The gentleman turned to William. There are so many trees in this park. I could use a little help. It was the night gardener. Under the light of the full moon, they worked deep into the night. Right there, it looks like William has fallen asleep. William awoke to the sound of happy families walking by and a gift from the night gardener. Looks like he's telling him to cut his own trees, make some art of his own. The whole town had come out to admire the night gardener and William's hard work. They have all kinds of animals. Over time, the leaves changed. And then fell until there was no evidence that the night gardener had ever been to Grimlock Lane. But the people of the small town were never the same. And so what I love, and neither was William. It looks like he's making his own creations with the gift. So I wanted to show you something that happens throughout this story. In our last picture, it is so bright and colorful, but it didn't always look like that. Remember at the beginning of the story? Everything was all gray and blue. But when the night gardener comes, he brings joy and color and people playing in the streets. So our next story is called Carmella Full of Wishes. It's by Matt de la Pena, and the illustrator is Christian Robinson. And they have both won a lot of awards. And inside they say, for my grandparents and Jesus and Navidad de la Pena, and everyone else who has journeyed to America with a dream. And for Claudette. Okay. Carmella scootered along the uneven dirt path, watching men stoop to work with their hands, her birthday bracelets jingling and jangling. The thick greenhouse air smelled of marigolds and overturned earth and fresh manure. Carmella knew exactly what manure was, but she didn't want to think about that. Not today. Today she awoke to candles in her pancakes, and her mom sang, "Happy birthday to you," and told her, "Go on, mija, make a wish." But Carmella's wish had already come true. She was old enough to go with her big brother. Where did they go? Carmella followed as he cut back onto the street at Freedom Boulevard, past the crowded bus stop and fenced-off repair shop, past the old folks' home where two hunched old women waved smiles, past the huge home improvement store where her dad used to stand around weekend mornings, waiting for work. Carmella tried to make small talk with her brother as their metal cart rattled, but her brother didn't make small talk back. He didn't want her tagging along. Too bad, she told him with her glare. Just outside the laundromat, she picked up a lone dandelion growing among the concrete weeds. She pulled a breath and leaned towards the fuzzy white bulb, but just before she could blow, her brother butted in. Did you even make a wish? You're supposed to make a wish. Everyone knows that. Of course I made a wish, she told him. But it was a lie, and Carmella didn't know. Carmella helped her brother sort colors one-handed, helped him load the washers one item at a time. While their clothes spun, her imagination turned, each new thought ushered in by a jingle of bracelets. Her brother found the sound annoying and shot her a dirty look. Too bad, she told him with her glare. She jingled her bracelets as she rode up to Miss Maria's vegetable stand, imagining a machine built into her bedroom wall, one that would spit out anything she could think of, but mostly candies. She jingled her bracelets in line at the locksmith shop, imagining her mom sleeping in one of those fancy hotel beds she spent all day making for the fancy guests. She jingled her bracelets at the bodega down the block from their old apartment building, imagining her dad getting his papers fixed so he could finally be home. She jingled her bracelets outside the pharmacy, eyeing the shiny new bikes in the window. Her brother stopped in his tracks. Why do you have to be so annoying? She thrummed her bracelets at him and said, It's a free country. The only time she didn't reach for her bracelets was when her brother ducked into his friend's house. Carmella slumped down on the curb, silently imagining all the things she could turn him into. The slimy pink tail of a rat, a cockroach scurrying away from the light, a wheelbarrow full of manure left in the sun. She stared down at the dandelion in her hand. It seemed so much more important now that she knew it was a place to put her wishes. What if she made the wrong choice? Carmella tried to hop a curb on the long trip home, but her tire caught and her handlebars twisted, and she went crashing to the concrete. Don't cry, don't cry, don't cry. But then she saw her dandelion crushed beside the drain. She looked up at her big brother, warm tears rolling down her cheeks. He lifted up her scooter. Are you okay? She shook her head and pointed. My wish. He took her by the arm and led her back up the block, past the laundromat and the flea market, past the greenhouses and the smell of manure, past the overgrown park and across the train tracks. He didn't stop until they made it to an abandoned farmhouse near a cliff overlooking the sea. Close your eyes, he said. Carmella closed them. Now make your wish, he said. Carmella listened to the ocean's hum in the distance. She listened to the squawking birds. She listened to the wind as it whistled past her ears. Then she opened her eyes. She saw hundreds of tiny white spores lifting into the air, floating out towards the far-off surf. The sky was full of wishes. Let's go, her brother said. Don't you want to know my wish? She asked. He shook his head. If you tell me, it won't come true. She looked back one last time. Then she took off her bracelets and followed her brother home. Now, I love this story. And you can always have as many wishes as you like. So our next story is called Tan's Moons, a Haida Moon story. It's by Alison Gear, and the felt illustrations are by Kiki Vanderhayden with the children of Haida Dialects. So you'll see in the story, but all of these children got together and made all these pictures out of a fabric called felt. And Alison says, to honor the knowledge keepers and the cycles that embrace them. And it says, for the children, may you see what you are capable of. May you recognize your creative power. May you always allow yourself to access this spark as it will brighten our world. So here's a picture of one of the kids working on the story. And so before we start the story, because I won't read this part, it says Haida Dialects means islands of the people in the Haida language. And Tan means bear. Haida Dialects is an island way on the other side of Canada by the Pacific Ocean and way far up north from there. Look, Tan's moons. There is a moon in the sky. It looks like a drum which guides the earth, where Tan comes from. Bear moon. Although Tan is sleeping, she shares with the land that circular rhythm that all creatures understand. Goose moon. Geese share this circle too. When they come here to feed, muddy roots and grasses provide the strength that they need. Noisy geese moon. The geese hiss and bark, but before they are gone, their loud, constant cackling has woken up Tan. Uh-oh, your bear friend won't be so happy about that. Migratory geese moon. Tan leaves her den, while etched in the sky, away to their nesting grounds, these honking geese fly. Food gathering moon. Tan forages the shoreline while people harvest too. Crabs and clams and herring roe, and halibut for stew. Raw berry moon. Tan knows the bushes are blooming in pink to welcome the hummingbirds with nectar to drink. Berries ripen moon. To the golden red berries, the thrush sings a greeting, but Tan doesn't hear him. She's too busy eating. Fish moon. Tan then feeds on salmon as upstream they swim by. People catch their fish at sea to jar and smoke and dry. Cedar bark weaving moon. Women thank Tan's favorite tree for the rich bark that it gives. They now weave hats and baskets, so the cedar's spirit lives. Ice moon. Ferns and moss are frozen. Bare twigs don't even stir. But Tan is fat and warm beneath her coat of rich black fur. Bears hibernate moon. Tan lumbers up the mountain. Hemlock curtains close. She crawls into a den of roots and then begins to doze. Snow moon. The forest sleeps in silence. In darkness, white stars glow. The moon's rhythm continues, echoed softly on the snow. And so I think that was all of the months of the year that we can see, because the moon gets full and then goes away and then comes back, and we call that a lunar cycle, which corresponds with our months. And so there's a couple more pictures of the children I'm going to share. And it has all the names of all the kids that helped make these felt drawings. So there's a piece back here that says honoring language. Because if we go back, we'll see that there are 2 Haida languages featured on each page. Skidegate Haida and Old Masset Haida. And they're very similar, but they're a little bit different. And so it says, the traditional Haida language, Xadsil, Sandaskil, Xayadaskil, is the language of the Haida people. Historically, each village in Haida territory spoke their language a little differently. Haida is an isolate. It is unique and has no known related language in the world. There are currently 3 distinct Haida dialects. The Haida language spoken in Old Masset on the northern end of Haida Gwaii is of the Sadkil dialect. This dialect shares similarities with the Haida language dialect of Sadaskil in Ketchikan, Kasan, and Heidelberg, Alaska. The Haida language spoken in the southern part of Haida Gwaii, primarily in Skidegate, is of the Sayadakil dialect. The number of fluent Haida speakers has declined or gone down over the past 100 years. We gratefully acknowledge the elders from all communities who are working hard to preserve, record, and share the language through school and community-based programs. The Old Masset translations for Tan's Moons have been provided by Jasquan Amanda Bedard and Sini Stephen Brown. The Skidegate Haida translations have come from several Haida sources and have been provided by the elders at the Skidegate Haida Immersion Program. So, a lot goes into making a book, especially one that uses a couple different languages. So I hope that you enjoyed sharing some of my favorite stories today, and maybe you will be inspired to use your voice to help someone, to be creative and brighten someone's day, to make a wish, or to learn a language or make a picture out of felt. So I hope that you enjoyed these stories, and we will probably do more of Mallory's favorite stories next week. So I hope that I see you then, and until then, have a great week and stay safe.